Duck2081A sends this one in. And YouTube comments, Twitter, become a Locked On Ducks insider, get priority access and a bunch of other perks. That link in the description below for a free 14-day trial. Send me all your questions. The season is very close. What questions are on your mind? I want to know. I want to hear from you guys. So, Duck2081A sends in a take for Spencer's scale of agreement. Or one that I'm turning into it anyway. Does Dan Lanning get over 200 wins at Oregon? Okay. Probably not. It would be super duper cool if he did. Because that means he would not just stay at Oregon for a long time. He would win at a level that makes him one of the greatest college football coaches probably of all time. So the reason I know that is, do you know how many games Nick Saban won in his career at Alabama? 201. Well, that's a lot. He's been a coach at 3 different places. Michigan State. He was actually only okay at Michigan State. LSU, he did very well, won a national championship. Alabama, we know, the greatest dynasty in the history of the sport. In total, in those spots, he spent 5 years at LSU, 5 years at Michigan State, and was at Alabama from 2007 to 2023. So 17 years there with the Crimson Tide. Quick math tells me that that's 27 years as a head coach, plus 1 year at Toledo, so 28. He won 292 games all time. But let's not presume that Lanning's going to be here for that'd be that would be really wild. Really wild. So let's just take Dan Lanning and think about what it would take for him to get to 200 wins, which Nick Saban just barely eclipsed at Alabama. From 2008 until 2023, Alabama never won fewer than 10 games. They actually only won 10 games once in 2010. They won 11 or more every other year, which is insane, but greatest of all time at Alabama. Lanning has shown he hasn't won fewer than 10 games in a year. Dan Lanning is, we all know, Lanning is very good. He's got 35 wins in his first 3 years. Let me do some quick math in real time, just to make sure my numbers are all solid here. If he's averaging about 12 wins per year, or 11.6, for him to get to 200, he would have to stay with the Ducks at the same rate of accumulating wins for over 17 seasons. It's 17.2. We'll round down, say maybe has some great years in there. And, you know, when you're expanding the playoff at the rate the Big Ten or SEC might want to, mostly the Big Ten. I don't even want to sound off on that today. It's so ridiculous. But a 17-year run, I mean, that'd be great. And it's not like he would get aged out to where he's going to retire. I mean, some coaches get burned out and decide, no, this isn't for me anymore. I want to spend more time with my family. I don't know. Dan Lanning's kids are in middle school, so unless he wants to coach for like 5 more years and then see them through to the end of high school, might not even be that long, quite frankly. So, and I haven't heard anything to that respect. So, does Dan Lanning get over 200 wins? I'm going to say probably not. I think a better number would have been 150. That would be more than Mike Bellotti had. Mike Bellotti, who had, of course, a phenomenal run at Oregon as the head coach from 1995 to 2008, won 137 games. Could Dan Lanning get to 150? If he stays at Oregon long enough, yes. I mean, Oregon should be a 10-plus game winner basically every year. Maybe every now and then you fluctuate down. You know, injuries happen or whiff on a quarterback prospect. I don't know. You know, there are only about 17 different things that could go wrong there. Get a brutal schedule. 200 wins. I'm gonna put that at a 1.5. And I love Lanning. Don't get me wrong. Holding him to go be Nick Saban. Well, 2. I'll give that a 2 at 200. But 150, that'd probably be more like a 7.5. But the longevity and sustained success that is required to get to that level, that's a lot. That is a lot. Alaskan Girl Dad says, if you could only retain one, who are you keeping? Tosh Lupoi or Chris Hampton? If I can only retain one, I want to make it clear I'm not calling for either of their jobs after last season just because they had a bad day in the Rose Bowl and need to get better against the best teams in the country. I think they can. I've seen coaches do it before. I don't think I'm crazy for saying Chris Hampton. Here's why. When I think a good number of Oregon fans that think about this stuff in detail, many of you out there, think about Tosh Lupoi, you think, oh, he's a phenomenal recruiter. That's where my mind goes to first. I think he gets underrated for the defenses that he coordinates and calls plays for and what they have done on the field over the last several years. They have gotten better each year that he's been in charge. They continue to recruit at a high level. And yeah, there is still improvement warranted. Do I think he's such a brilliant schematic guy that I don't think you could possibly upgrade there? I don't, because I watch a lot of other defensive coordinators across the country come in with talent that's already there and make bigger improvements more quickly because they're just better with the scheme and making the right play calls. So Hampton was a defensive coordinator at Tulane. He did quite well. I probably lean towards Hampton because you jump towards, well, you don't want to lose Tosh Lupoi's recruiting. Well, Chris Hampton was just the 24/7 Sports Recruiter of the Year. So do I know that he can recruit defensive linemen like Tosh Lupoi can? I do not. But I know he can recruit defensive backs better than anybody has in the history of Oregon football. So this is a tougher call for me than I think it is for a lot of Oregon fans out there. Not a lot, but certainly a segment who I interact with regularly, and I understand why they're in that position of, the social post I had the other day of asking how much confidence people have in Tosh Lupoi is like one of the most engaged with social posts on Twitter I've had all off season. And it's a topic clearly that got some Oregon fans hot and bothered, and people have strong opinions about, the performance he's had over the last several years. We'll get another data point this year, but yeah, by a smaller margin than most, I will lean towards Chris Hampton because he did some really good things at Tulane. I think he's done great things since coming to Oregon. And yeah, I think he will be a Power 4 defensive coordinator one day. He's already gotten some interest and buzz because people know how good he is. But do I think that Tosh is on the hot seat this year? No, I do not. So